And it is a somewhat chilly afternoon here in Tel Aviv. Chilly for Tel Aviv, which means that it's in the high 60s, low 70s. And I'm talking with Simon Arkell from Laguna Beach in California. Simon, good morning.
Hey, Danny. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on the show. Simon is a twice Olympian. He's Australian originally. He came to the U.S. to I think to get accepted to the Australian Olympic team originally. Wasn't is that not true?
That's right. Yeah, I came over on an athletic scholarship when I was 19. Went to University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and that's where I kind of honed my craft in the NCAA to try and get better and hopefully someday make the Olympic team for Australia, which I ended up doing
Twice.
twice. Yeah, no, it was a good run. The US was very kind to me, just great competition, incredible training partners, and access to everything. And so yeah, I improved out of sight. My best was 16 feet 9 inches, which is 5 meters 10 when I arrived. And when I finished college, I was at 18.5, which was a national record, and that set me up for my first World Championships and then Olympic Games the year after that. And then it ended up just over 19 feet in my career, which was a Commonwealth and Australian record, and stood for a bit. And then I had to get a real job, so now I'm doing what I do now.
And you've been doing it quite well for a few years, haven't you? Uh, so it's a pleasure and an honor for me to have you on the show. Just for our listeners, my name is Danny Lieberman. I'm the host of Life Sciences Today, and we have people like Simon on the show. People at this intersection between biology and clinic and tech, and we talk about business. We talk about how we create value, capture value, and how we create something so unstoppable that we'll just have a lot of fun doing it and make money, of course. So
Mhm.
I'll start with the first question, which is we already actually started. So tell me a bit about your journey to Ryght. Am I saying
Yeah,
that name right? It's kind of a weird spell. Ryght. Did I say
yeah.
that right?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure Ryght.com wasn't available, so we're Ryght with a Y.ai. And I think we have a .net and a .org now as well. But yeah, it's a really fun and fascinating ride that we're on right now in this new age of AI. This is my seventh company. I'm one of these kind of perpetual founder types. So I've been lucky enough to meet some incredible people over the years, be in some incredible technology waves. My first venture-backed startup was in the dot-com boom, and I've been doing them ever since. My prior company was called Deep Lens, which I did with two partners in Ohio, good friends, and we ended up with a really great AI software and service that helped match cancer patients to clinical trials in the US. So it's very meaningful. We were helping patients get enrolled into studies they never would have had access to had it not been for this model and this company. And we had a fantastic exit about 3.5 years ago to a company called Paradigm Health. And then after I left Paradigm, I started Ryght, which is kind of native to the new generative AI and agentic AI that we've built in a secure platform that's completely verticalized for the clinical research industry. And we're doing something with a complete rethink of the way things have always gone down in this industry, which is not the most modern and kind of tech forward industry ever, that's for sure. And so we're looking to disrupt that in a pretty big way. And I think we're already on the way to doing that.
That's amazing to hear. So that's sort of like, that disruption word that brings me to the next question, which is how do you create value for your customers? And by the way, who are your customers?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, in clinical research, which is another term for clinical trials, there is just massive upside to what we call sponsors, which are biotech and pharma companies, getting a drug to commercial availability so that doctors can prescribe it. In oncology, in kind of cell and gene therapy, you see, one dose of these drugs being $250,000 or more. It's just crazy. And primarily that's because it takes $3 billion to get a drug to market in this day and age, and it takes 12 years. And there's literally no reason why it should take 12 years and cost $3 billion. But there are many, many kind of inefficiencies. There's a lot of government oversight through the FDA and their kin across the world. But there are systems in place that operate today in exactly the same way they operate operated 20, 25 years ago. And primarily, it's very inefficient because the sites, which are the clinics and hospitals that run the clinical trials, they're typically the wrong ones. And they're picked because they may have lots of patients, but the other 17 reasons as to why they're probably not a good fit is not taken into account. People activate these sites, or companies activate these sites because they've worked with them before, but that's not no indicator as to whether they should work with them again in the future. And this has resulted in a pretty inconvenient truth, and that is that 80% of sites fail to hit their enrollment targets, and 50% of sites enroll no more than one patient, so either zero or one. So it's the reason why studies fail. So a clinical trial that fails in phase 3 will cost the sponsor hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's because outside of toxicity and bad science, which I guess happens, they just fail to enroll enough patients, and it's very competitive to get at those patients. And so it's a big, big problem. And we've created value by coming up with a scale out tech and service that completely rethought this problem from first principles. We've spent 2.5 years getting it live, and it took way longer than we thought it would. But it is scaling, and the adoption and the engagement with this platform is incredible right now. On a daily basis, it's going like that.
That's amazing. So your customers are sponsors, and
Yep,
you created a system which you call digital twins for sites, which is very, very cool because until now there have been a few companies doing digital twins for patients.
correct.
But of course, knowing that sites are the bottleneck, and knowing that, by the way, in addition, some of our listeners may not know that less than 5% of potential sites in the United States are recruiting patients for clinical research. So there's a huge untapped market here. So in addition to getting it right and matching right, you can actually tap into a huge, huge uh,
Yeah.
supply side there.
Yeah, the vision from day one, actually, Danny, was that if we could create a real-time communication between the sites and the sponsors, and of course the CROs in between, then there would be a real-time exchange of value, and things could happen at lightning speed. It shouldn't take 3 to 6 months to identify, do the outreach, and get a site to agree to budget and then go live. Sometimes it takes a year. And it should take days, and identifying them should take minutes, and we've now accomplished that. And again, the engagement is evidence that there's a real need for this, because sites want better studies that they can make money on and obviously cure their patients with. And the sponsors want better sites that will not fail, so that they don't risk hundreds of millions of dollars each time. So by creating this solution, I'll describe that digital twin thing now you brought it up. It came from an aha moment, and some memories, PTSD from the pain and suffering of our business model in the last company. And that was that we were able to eventually claim a site network of what ended up being a couple of hundred sites using our tech at Deeplan's. But the size of our network was limited to which sites were using our software. And so our sponsors were thinking, okay, that's great. You got a couple of hundred sites there. What about other sites in the US that are perfect for us but are not using your software? Well, we had no answer for that. What about other countries? Well, we had no answer for that. Every vendor in this industry has a software or service that is required to be used by the sites. And the quid pro quo is that that vendor then gets access and insights to data, maybe medical records, et cetera, to help match patients to clinical trials. And they're all limited to how many sites are using their software or service. So we said, okay, first principles, let's break this down. What do the sponsors want? They want the best sites anywhere that are the perfect fit. And they want to make sure that the outreach is responded to, and that they can establish those relationships, even if they've never met that site before. So we created a digital twin of every single clinical research site in the world, meaning any clinical hospital that's ever run clinical trial. in 192 countries, and there's over 100,000 of these sites that we have a digital twin for. And
Well,
that's an analytical model of that site. So we want to replicate the actual site as much as possible. Physical infrastructure like the -80 freezer you need to have for certain trials, the scanning, the genomic testing, the PIs, the principal investigators, and their background and capabilities. And we now can load a clinical trial protocol. We can, in real time, it ingests and creates a structured note, and then the AI knows what the needs are of the trial and matches it to the capabilities of any site in the world, and then uses a contact agent to go out and find the best PIs for that particular study and indication, and their most recent email and phone number by scraping 300 sites all at once across hundreds of sites and thousands of investigators, and then does a CRM type outreach to those sites and gets their engagement either by replying to the email or logging or dropping into our portal, which requires no login. It's frictionless. And so we're really taking the friction out of engagement with the very best PIs at the very best sites in any country in the world that can succeed for that clinical trial. And the results are just incredible because it's a complete unlock that's never happened before.
whoa, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. Yeah, my
It's fun.
previous company, which we sold 2 years ago, was did clinical data management,
Mhm.
and I think, at the height, I think we had like maybe 1,000 sites that were putting data into the system, but we were sort of further on in the pipeline after the
Yeah.
patients were already recruited. But this problem of recruitment was always an issue. Incredible. That's just incredible. Um, let's talk about value capture. So how do you make
Yeah.
money?
Yeah. Well, solving the obvious problem. I've, done this company startup thing a few times now, and one of my favorite terms is that we want to obviously not create a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Check. We really honed in on the problem and how deeply to solve that in a way that's it's never been solved before because generative AI didn't exist before, really in the mainstream until 3 years ago. Um, so we're solving this problem that has a checkbook attached to it. Now that problem with the checkbook attached is not a blank check, but it's a big check if you can solve the problem that can save a $300 million study. Um, we charge either by subscription on a per project or per study fee, or we charge on a per site activated fee, depending on whether people want to commit to a longer term or just in a rescue study just get the sites, and they pay us for that. The capture of value is that also we're creating a flywheel, and I think we provide ongoing high utility problem solving on an ongoing basis because every engagement that ever happens with anyone who gets the outreach email or message, we're also doing AI text agents and voice agents, which is really cool, where the AI will call you and have a conversation with you about a clinical trial and know everything about the inclusion and exclusion criteria and the patients and the enrollment targets. And you're conversing with this agent as if it's a human, and you can barely tell it's not. But there's a lot of cool ways to engage with these PIs at these sites that are chosen. But just there replying to an email or clicking a button in our portal is engagement that populates their digital twin and makes the system smarter the next time. And so anytime a customer uses our platform and our service, they're getting a system that learns about them and grows in utility every time it's used or every time anyone gets a message and replies to it.
So so the digital twin becomes enriched, so to speak, with more accurate data. I suppose you can kind of tune the parameters and
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, there are many, there are over a dozen different variables that go into the match of the sites and the selection recommendation and then the ranking. And these are with analytics that, again, were previously impossible to do at scale. The matching then leads obviously to the outreach to the right people through that contact agent I mentioned. But I want to paint a picture for what's possible here. Because the system learns every time there's engagement, and we're doing outreach to thousands of PIs every day, and we're adding 2 or 3 new studies a week into the system right now for our clients. It's just
Wow.
incredible.
Wow.
You have this exponential flywheel being created such that more engagement leads to better data, leads to more usage, and therefore more engagement, and it goes round and round and round. And because the system and the data set gets better every time, it's also happening in real time. And so we have what I think is probably the best data set that is the most recent and updated, but it's dynamically growing on a daily basis. We might talk about the future in this, but imagine a future, Danny, where um, instead of us running campaigns for our clients, the AI agents are understanding what is and is not in the twins, hundreds of thousands of them, and is doing automated outreach to the individuals at those sites because it needs missing information in order to bring them better studies next time, or it's looking for sites for a particular study. But that happens autonomously without us even running campaigns, and you'll have an AI platform and agent system that is effectively doing a real-time update of the digital twins 24 hours a day constantly and creating a dynamic real-time data set.
Whoa. Well, that's, that sounds like an amazing thing. And it certainly sounds to me like the right thing to do. I mean, and and it's so simple. I mean, from a perspective of your customers, the sponsors and the supply side, which are the sites, it's a great thing. It's good for sites, brings them more business,
Yep.
better business, more precise business for them instead of fooling around and pretending they can they can deliver service better, I think. I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the great part about this is, as when we're looking from this above, from a systems perspective, you don't need to interface with the clinical data systems.
Mhm.
You're just doing matchmaking between the sites and the sponsors,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, I think that's one of the other lessons learned from my last company. We required EMR integration at all of the sites that we were claiming in our network. And to be honest, the reality was that the live sites with the EMR integrations were trailing behind the signed contracts in a big way because it took so long
Oh my
to
God.
not only get approval, but then once you've signed the contract, to make the integration happen because you're relying on the software vendor for the EMR, whether that's Flatiron or Epic, God forbid. And it takes forever. And then once you've got it, that's great, and it's sticky, but it doesn't scale because you imagine trying to get 100,000 sites to give you integrations into their medical records. You don't, and I think the really kind of counterintuitive status quo right now, in my mind at least, is that everyone thinks you need access to the medical record so you can see how many patients have the thing that you're looking for the clinical trial. But what if
Yeah,
you have a lot of patient? What if you have a lot of patients, but also have 11 competing trials that are competing for those very same patients, or the PI that you want to target is a paid consultant to your client's competitor? What if they've been fined and by the governing bodies, or you name it? There are so many things that go into the ranking of a site, and only one of them is whether they have patients that have that problem.
right. And the patients may not even be available for you anyhow.
Exactly
So it's
right.
like, yeah. So I think that's an amazing way to re-engineer things. I've been talking to people for a long time now in the space about how we don't need to automate stupid processes. We need to re-engineer them, and that's exactly what you're doing. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I think I had to have, that PTSD from the last company to realize that there are some things that probably shouldn't be repeated just because we did them before. I'm not sure I would have started that company. We wouldn't have started that company if we'd known a lot about it, to be honest. But then when we jumped in, we did it the obvious way, and the obvious way isn't always the right way. The right way now is our way, which is more top down than bottom up. But with the agentic AI that's now possible and that we've now deployed into production, the data and the insights and the analytics you're getting about those sites globally is far superior to just having a medical record insight at some sites
Oh,
that happen to be using your software.
oh, for sure. Plus two more things. Consider this: the EMR is notoriously dirty data. Okay, and
Yeah,
uh, and it's not so. I'm not sure you can rely on that. And the second thing is that there's so much more interesting things happening outside the EMR, like orders of magnitude more interesting things happening outside the EMR around the patient as opposed to the EMR. So I think, if you ask me, I think that uh, we're not far away, probably a few years, when people will understand that the interesting stuff is happening around people, not around the EMR.
yeah,
And and that's
yeah.
not
It's also, yeah, there's also a really fascinating thing happening in the industry in that people are wanting, companies are wanting to make their data available so they can grow their customer base through kind of better accessibility. So, as an example, Medidata announced an MCP server, which is kind of that new way to expose massive data sets and systems to language models. So it really automates the API call for the language model through this MCP server. Those are becoming highly prevalent. We've started writing an MCP server so people can access our digital twin universe as well without having to go through our applications necessarily. But this metadata one, as an example, great company, been around for decades. Their co-founder, former CEO, is an investor and an advisor to us here at Ryght, and so we know those guys really well. But now we can provide any historical outcomes data for any site on the planet that is chosen through our system. And by exposing that, and the customer would have to subscribe to Medidata, and that's revenue for Medidata, so they support this. But it's much more focused on the sites that we're recommending. By seeing the prior outcomes data very efficiently within the digital twin and the site list, we now have the ability to very quickly fire up a predictive model, which is more deterministic, supervised machine learning predictive model. And we can predict with very high specificity and accuracy how many patients each site will enroll on this study. And so now you're not only picking the best sites, but you're predicting how many patients will enroll and how quickly the site can get that done. And that's now like a fully scalable uplift into the overall solution.
And that kind of integration is outstanding.
Yeah.
From one of the leaders in electronic data capture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you're ramping up. This is going to 2026 will be your year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Good timing. We got this thing live before the end of the year. Took, as I said, a lot longer than we thought it would, but no one's ever actually done what we've done now. It never existed before. We've invented this concept, and we're actually patent pending on it now, which is great. So the usage of digital twins to represent clinical research sites for any use case, including site selection and activation, etc. So it's a pretty cool space to be in. And now that we are adding so many trials on a weekly basis, we're just seeing these engagement metrics grow up. Like the flywheel is literally happening in front of our eyes, and it's really exciting.
Wow, I'm happy for you. And I'm excited myself just talking to you about this because it's been a really long time, like never, that someone has come and just kind of upset the apple cart here.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end of our time, I'm sorry we didn't have beer, but maybe
Yeah.
next
Next time.
time. Next time. The past few weeks I've been asking a surprise question, and my listeners know that there's going to be a surprise question, but so I'm going to ask you, Simon, surprise question. What's the biggest anti-pattern in the clinical trial industry today?
Biggest anti-pattern. I would have to say what we are doing to go against the grain of how things have always been done in this industry is an anti-pattern. Also disruption, as you mentioned. I think for this to happen at scale, it'll be the biggest kind of seismic shift in the way, at least this component of the clinical research industry is performed. We want to get to scale very quickly because of this. And the pattern that you currently see is what I mentioned earlier, which is that everyone picks sites that a vendor brings them because they have insights into their medical record, and that must be like where you have to go just because they have lots of patients. Well, guess what? That's one of 20 variables in a very complex multivariate analytical problem, equation, algorithm, however you want to put it. To be able to generate insights that are 50 times more powerful without needing the medical record is the judo move and the unlock. And I think, the antithetical approach to solving this problem. And because we approached it with a net new type of technology that mankind has never seen until generative AI came along, we've actually applied this in production and have agents, AI agents, that are constantly 24 hours a day doing things in completely the opposite way than the industry has ever seen, and it's working.
Well, I guess that's a proof that anti-patterns are a good thing.
I think so. Yeah, it's good to be the renegade, right?
Yeah, it's good to be the renegade. I would say I wrote an essay on this a few weeks ago. I called it product founder misfit.
There you go.
So you're a perfect example of product founder misfit, and
I am a misfit.
yeah, I'm saying that seriously. I mean, I'm smiling and we're joking when we talk about it. It's really true. You need someone who's actually not, saying the status quo and the party line, and we have to do it this way. You have to have paper sign-offs, all that shit. No, no way. So, Simon, it's been incredible. I expect to hear great things from you guys this year. Keep in touch with me. To our listeners, I want to say again, it's been my pleasure and honor to host Simon Arkell as a two-time Olympian, but more important than being a pole vaulter. I think he's shaking up the industry and shaking out one of the biggest anti-patterns in the industry, which is that you need an EMR to recruit patients. It's not true, and I think your results appear to be proving that. So more power to you. God
Thank
bless,
you.
and we look forward to hearing great things from you. The I'll let you know when it goes live a few days beforehand. It goes live on a Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Uh,
Okay.
I write up an essay on my newsletter, Clear Thinking, and we'll feature you. You'll be featured. You and Ryght will be featured there, and we'll talk about. We'll talk again. Do another piece on product
Okay.
market, product founder misfits.
There
Okay.
you go. I love it. I love it. Thanks for having me, Danny. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on the show and great stuff.
Okay.
Peace.
Let's keep
Bye
it.
bye.
Thank you.